Hello, Erica. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. So, thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate it and very much excited to get to know about you and some of the wonderful work that you do in social work field. So before we get started, why don't you give a little bit of introduction and let our audience know, all the wonderful things you do.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I am, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm one of three social workers in my family. I have two younger sisters who are also social workers. I actually came from Ecuador when I was about 3.5 years old, and I came to the United States with my mother after my grandmother came here. And we navigated so many systems. As you know, it's very difficult to navigate systems when you're undocumented and when you don't speak the language. And I learned so much from these two incredible matriarchs in my family that I identify now as a future matriarch of my own family system. I have a beautiful daughter who identifies as an Afro Latina. Her name is Isabella, and she is now 22 years old. I raised her as a single mom. I was divorced when she was 1. And so I started my social work journey a little bit later in life. And she came along the ride with me. I used to take her to school with me, and it's been amazing. And now I am an entrepreneur. I own a private practice, which is Sandoval Psychotherapy Consultation. And we provide psychotherapy for communities in New York City, and recently became a trained ketamine assisted therapist, trained with the gurus of trauma, which has been incredible. And really proud to have collaborated with social work leaders across the country to bring some beautiful books to the schools of social work and to the students and to all of these incredible leaders to learn about social work and learn about the different career paths and our own stories of trauma and resilience. So I've done a lot since the pandemic. That's all basically what I've done since 2020. If I go way back, it'll take so much more time. So my social work has been probably my 4th professional career.
Wow, that's wonderful, Erica. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's really, I'm very, very intrigued to know like how this whole social work field came along, because I'm hearing that you had like other professions too in the past, and what really like, this was your moment, like, this is it, I'm going to do social work from now onwards. So I'm really intrigued to know how did that kind of came around. So like, what, like, to just like follow up question would be, what brought you to the social work world? Like, why social work?
Interestingly, I always felt like my grandmother and my mother were social workers without the professional title, because they helped so many people and they have nurtured so many communities and individuals, and helping them launch and helping them survive. So I've always been around them. So I was raised with them. So I think we all have this heart that just wants to support and give and bring resources to others that need it. And when I started my social work journey, I like to say that social work found me. I didn't decide I want to be a social worker. It wasn't like that. It's such a personal story, but I'll share with you. My mom had problems with speaking English. And so she had interviewed for a job at the hospital for special surgery. And at the hospital for special surgery, the HR rep called her and said, "Can we speak?" And my mom had said, "Hey, do you mind helping me translate this?" And I got so frustrated because I've always felt like I've always been a translator for my family and my mother especially. And I said, "Sure, no problem." And I just took a deep breath, and I knew that this is something that you have to do. And as I was translating for my mother, they were sharing that she was not going to be asked to come in and to work there because of her language. And it was breaking my heart to translate that to my mom. And so as I was doing that with so much love and compassion, the HR rep heard it and then said, "But what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I just graduated from college with my clinical degree in psychology for adolescents. And now I'm waiting tables at Rosa Mexicano, which was on it still is, it's on the Upper West Side." And she said, "Well, we have this position and I'd love to hear if you're interested." And it's for this Charla de Lupus program as an associate. And my mom just could see that something was happening. She just kept going. And I said, "Sure, okay," because she just had really bad news. But then her face lit up when her daughter was invited to come and interview at the hospital, right? Because that's like every mother's dream. Like, I want more for my daughter than I want for myself.
Mhm.
And so I interviewed, and by the time I got home from the interview, because at that time, pre-COVID, it was all in person. I was walking home and I already had the call and they offered me the job. So I was working at the Department of Social Work. And for years, I was working as an associate. And the more I worked with other social workers, the more I was encouraged to apply, because I always felt I was not good enough to go get my master's degree, to become a professional, licensed social worker. Like, I never even thought I'd finish college, much less a master's degree. So I was strongly encouraged and mentored, and the work that I was doing, it just seemed like organic, and like all the doors were opening. And so as I was being mentored to apply, I said, "I'm only going to apply to one school, and this school accepts me. It's meant to be." And I applied to NYU and I was accepted. And that was the beginning of the future social workers in our family, because after I did that, my two younger sisters followed. And now we're all graduates, two from NYU, one from Columbia, and we're all supporting our communities. And it doesn't even feel like work.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, this is so wonderful. And it makes me feel so happy to hear your journey, how, you came this far and how it's just kind of worked out, like how universe did its thing and you just followed your heart and this is where you are today. And thank you so much. Like, I really do appreciate your openness. And I'm pretty sure like the audience is really very much like could resonate with a lot of pieces that you mentioned, being the interpreter of the house, being the oldest immigrant daughter. We all know the struggles, right? And like another important thing that you really mentioned, and I think it really probably struck with other people too, like not feeling like being good enough because of lack of resources or lack of guidance, and being like the first generation immigrant, right, in this country. Can you tell like a little more about like how those challenges kind of shaped you as a social worker?
it taught me resilience. It taught me resilience. It taught me compassion. It taught me empathy. It taught me survival skills. It taught me love for myself. And the reason why I say this is because I had to see my grandmother struggle, and them not knowing the language. I had so much compassion and empathy for them. And the resilience that I built to really overcompensate for what they lacked was something that is not taught in school. It's almost like this learned behavior that you have to be the interpreter, be the spokesperson for your family, be the person that holds important conversations. Translating for your parents or for your grandmother throughout life, that we don't really should have to do as children, but you learn a lot. So I watched them as they navigated this system, and I am still in awe of how much they were able to accomplish. So I honor my ancestors now, because my grandmother is no longer with us. And now I see my mother, who is now retired, has a beautiful life, and she did so much for the three of us to really push through systems that were not always welcoming, because there's oppressive systems in place. And we were able to really pull through it. And so even though we were impacted by trauma, I don't see myself as a victim. I see myself as a survivor and now advocate for our people and for each other. And I want to bring communities together so everyone can support each other. Because when you unite, you're more powerful. And that's all. It's not just Latinos, it's not just African Americans, it's not just individuals that are identified as white. It's all of us. If we just have compassion, love, and respect, we can really create such incredible change together. So it taught me all of that.
Yeah, yeah. So beautiful, so beautifully said. And I resonate with you so much, being an immigrant person myself, right? And all the things that being the oldest daughter in the immigrant household would do, right? It's a lot of challenges. But again, as you said, resiliency, that's the beauty of resiliency, right?
It is. There's a beauty. And a lot of times, sometimes we think of that word and we think, why do we have to be resilient? Why is it that we had so much struggle? So when we take the word and we really kind of frame it in a different way, that we're honoring our strengths. We're just honoring the strengths that we have developed through life, through our ancestors' wisdom and our own now. We can really see it in a different way. So
Yeah.
it is a gift.
Yeah. I hear a lot about, like, I think language is such an important piece of anyone's culture, right? It's part of your identity, right? And there's a lot of like loss of that, sense of identity, that piece of your identity, right? When you move to a place where English is the only language being spoken, right? And I would like to know from you, do you think this barrier has evolved over time since like growing up in the States? Do you think things have changed and there's more inclusivity and there's more diversity at workplaces?
There is. I think that we definitely have moved and we have shifted. I like to say shifted instead of changed because I always feel like there's room for a change, but there's shifts that are happening. And there's more of us now in this profession. There's more of us in different areas um, of workplaces. There is conversations about things that we have never really talked about. And so we are shifting. And the only way that we shift is when the individual shifts. Our minds are shifting. We are connecting to our purpose. We're more aligned to what it is that we want to do and how we want to do it. And as we shift internally, systems shift around us. So I have seen a lot of shifts and a lot of beautiful openings. And I think there's more to come. And it's going to be really wonderful to continue to collaborate with organizations and individuals that want to do this incredible work. Because now there are more social workers that are representing the communities that we serve. There's not enough, but there's more than ever before. And how beautiful it is to be in your community and represent your community while you're serving your community. There's a completely different feeling that's attached to it. There's that trust. There's that, instead of being culturally competent, we're humble. They are able to connect with us because maybe they look or resemble it. We have that language. And now there's so much more tools that can provide access, like translation services. We didn't really have that before. We used our children.
Yeah.
Now we know that that's not the best option. So things are shifting, and I can see how things are changing.
Yeah, yeah. I loved how you use the word shift instead of change. And I think this is something very important to like understand, that there's always room for change, right? It's not only it, right? As people are evolving, needs are evolving, right? New needs are supposed to be met, right, by our people in the community. And I think you said it really, really like on point. And I love that. And I'll take it with me for sure. I'll definitely take it with me. Also, I was very curious to see, like, to know more about the work that you are doing. And I hear a lot that you have been doing a lot of trauma work with your clients, right? So as a social worker, how has your like trauma work, or how has your like point of view or like trauma informed lens has evolved over time?
I believe that in my 20s, like if we just go through decades, it's been incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Due to the fact that I did not have a mental health professional in my life in my 20s, I had to navigate systems without that support. And why was that? It's because we didn't really speak about going to therapy. We didn't really speak about speaking to someone. Maybe it was not affordable to many people, and we didn't have the right insurances that provided access to clinical social workers, and especially if they were not ones that look like us. So in my 20s and in my 30s, I navigated systems alone. But then once I started going into the social work field and speaking to others, I was able to accept support and know that I needed support, and I needed to unpack trauma that developed since I was a child. I mean, we could talk about womb trauma, navigating, um, migrations, navigating systems. All of these traumas have been living in my body for so long. And in my 20s and my 30s, in my 20s, I recognized that they were interfering. In my 30s, I was ready to accept support. And then in my 40s, I was actually doing this work as I became a social worker and healer. I was healing myself. And I think the most beautiful thing is that now that I'm reaching a different decade in my life, I really started tapping more into my own ancestral healing rituals, and it's been incredible. And so as I started embarking as a trained ketamine assisted therapist, I started seeing how we can tap into our unconscious mind and open our heart and create some space to heal parts of us that have not been healed before. And I really started continuing to do that work by going to my country and really sitting with healers and just really connecting to nature and really connecting to the spirit. I really started unpacking a lot of the trauma, and I shed it away. And I know that it can be done. We just need to have that safe space to do so. And the more I've done it, the better I've become in supporting my communities. And the more I understand the work that needs to happen in a holistic way. I love, love, love supporting our communities, and especially other social workers that are doing this work, because together we could do so much.
All righty. Thank you so much, Erica. I think you mentioned something really important when it comes to doing your own like healing work. I think it's so important, and it shows up at our work every single day with our clients, right? And I'm very curious to know and see if this is going to be social work, like social workers, like future, like what do you think, like how important this work is for a social worker to be able to like do their own healing and simultaneously keep showing up for their clients?
I think it's a complete honor, first of all, to be in front of individuals and to support them in their healing journey. And how incredible it is when we are actually doing our own work, that we can create more space and safer spaces in a holistic way. I think the future of social work is definitely going to look so much more spiritual and grounded, with grounded techniques, with breath work, with yoga, with body movements, we're somatic psychotherapy is so incredible. Internal family systems. Where are you feeling that trauma? Where is it coming up for you? This is what is needed, because we're carrying so much. So as we're talking about what is coming up for us, it shows up in our body. And as we're kind of working with the individual and doing talk therapy, we have to really pay attention to all parts of us. And so I think that there's so much happening, and it's going to be really beautiful to be a part of it and see how it's evolving. yoga work with social workers. So incredible.
So incredible.
So
Beautiful.
incredible.
Yeah. So holistic.
So
Like,
holistic. It's
yeah.
just, and I'm not a yoga instructor, but I've met so many incredible social workers that are doing that. And it's so beautiful. How can you calm someone that has been under toxic stress for so long? We tell them holistic techniques, mindful meditation, breath work, yoga, all these things. So if we can really incorporate those skill set into our own practice, how amazing will that be?
Yeah. It will be wonderful.
It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah. Amazing. So, hearing all these wonderful things that you enjoy doing for yourself, for your community, right? And obviously, like, we all can do so much, right? And on that note, like, I really want to know that what makes you keep like moving forward? Like, what keeps you motivated to stay in this field?
I don't think of it as like a field or a profession. I think of it as a purpose. And if it's aligned with what I love, it's like a no-brainer. You wake up in the morning and if you're feeling calm, serene, joy, and invigorated, you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So what motivates me is just really listening to how individuals are reacting to this incredible new way of healing. And narrative medicine is so important when we really get to know the individuals that we're working with, like really understanding them as a whole and being able to support incredible organizations to really think about their clients in a more holistic way and really listening and being with them. It's amazing because look at the impact that we're making. And I have to say that it's not alone because through the Latinx, Latina in social work book series, I have connected with like 45 other incredible social work leaders and healers that are doing this work as well. And together, we know the impact that we're having. And there's so much more of us that needs to be amplified and our voices need to be heard. So bringing all of us together to talk about the trauma, but then really focus on the resilience to inspire the reader in our communities is what keeps me going. This is what keeps me alive because I know I'm not at it alone.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, like every single thing you are saying, I'm just like, let me just quickly take a note so that I can empower myself later on. Like me also being like a new social worker in this field, and there is so much happening around you, and listening from you makes me feel like, there's like a lot of scope and potential of like the work of social workers are doing, right? So I'm pretty sure a lot of other people who are watching this video would also want to know that what is that one thing that you would want to tell the new social workers in this field? Like, what advice would you give to new social workers in the field?
I would say don't go at it alone. Really look in your community, look for mentors. I have so many mentors that I give so much love to because they provided not just mentorship, but sponsorship, meaning they have spoken of me in spaces that I may not have been known. And it helped me move into a space where I was able to get a consulting contract or elevated my career. So it's not just a mentor that you connect with here and there, but you build a relationship with, and you are a representation of them. And so take a note of that as well, because when someone has taken time in you, they believe in you. They believe in what you're doing. They believe in your purpose. They could see incredible things that you may not be able to see. So those mentors will remind you when you're having that imposter syndrome, when you're feeling like I can't do this, they're going to remind you how amazing you are. And you're going to have them as your cheerleaders. And they're going to help you, push you gently into doing things that may be uncomfortable, that's going to benefit you. Because sometimes we're always talking to ourselves in a negative way, having limiting beliefs of ourselves. And we just need amazing people to say, hey, I get it. It's hard. I've done it. It's not easy, but you can do it. And here, let me just help you in.
Yeah.
So look for those mentors and make sure that you honor them as they honor you, and create those relationships. And then make sure that you become a mentor to someone else, because you have to continue paying it forward. So that is the golden key to success. Give, give, and appreciate and live in gratitude and abundance.
Wow. What a wonderful way to, like kind of wrapping up our interview. And I think it's so important, like it's a cycle, right? It's a cycle of what you get, you give, and it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And thank you so much for naming imposter syndrome in this room, because I think a lot of new social workers could experience that. I myself experience it often, right? Like, am I doing good enough, right? What am I even doing here?
I still experience it. It sneaks up on us. It sometimes sneaks up on us. And I don't experience it as much as I used to, but it still has happened. Like you get that like before it maybe lasted a month.
Yeah.
Then it lasts a week. Then it lasts a day. Now it's lasting minutes for me. Like just those self-doubts. It's almost like you're programmed to think that way. And then you quickly, after you continue to do this work, you kind of reset your narrative, and that you no longer believe those limiting beliefs. So it is very normal to experience it, but there's definitely a lot of work that can be done to help you through that. And mentors really help you move through that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Erica, for this wonderful advice. And I'm pretty sure all the new social workers appreciate everything that you have talked about during our interview today. And thank you so much for being here, so open. And it was a delight speaking to you, get to know a little more about the work you are doing. And thank you. Like, I'm pretty sure the community really, really appreciates the work you do.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure and honor. Thank you.